Here we are. Welcome to another episode of Shining the Light On. How are you, Therese?
I'm doing much better today. I was just telling Amber yesterday's energy was crazy.
Yeah.
And talking to a few people, they were feeling it, but I really, wow. I mean, intense headache, dizziness, just exhausted. All of that was going on. So I'm assuming we had some serious energy stuff going through.
Yeah, I felt the same way. And there's a lot of weird things going on in my day and with my clients and stuff. So there's definitely some funky energy going on. I think, to tie this into today's topic, I think we're continuing to get closer to this world precipice, this precipice that humanity is being taken to. And we've all met different precipices of our own, but it is literally to get the collective to mostly be on the same page. And therefore we're being, I think, set up and prepared in this movie for this precipice, this scare event, this worldwide scare event. Now we're not here to fearmonger, push fear porn. We see this as a movie. We know this is part of the divine plan. We know there's so much good happening and coming on the other side of this. And how do you get people to wake up?
That's right.
Right.
And it's bigger than one country. It's global. It's global. The whole thing.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, astrologically, I think that Pluto, which is the planet of revolution, has moved direct again. So it was for like half of this year. It was in retrograde, and whenever a planet's in retrograde, that energy sort of is internalized. And Pluto represents a collective planet, meaning that it's not a personal planet. It affects collective energy. So we've got this energy that was kind of internalized or self-building, moving outward again. And this is when you're going to see movement happen. So of course, as we're talking about this, we know stuff's going on with Israel and Palestine, and that's a whole nother topic right now. But this is that revolutionary. So Pluto is the power purge planet. So it either empowers you or it purges a bunch of stuff to empower you. And we know that we're in this huge cycle. We're in this big spiritual war between good and evil. And it's a long one. And we're at the kind of precipice of it, the biggest part of it. So now we've got this planet, which is all about breaking down these structures, coming back online to actively, externally help cause these breakdowns in structure. It's purging it, right?
Yeah.
And we also know that this movie, we're all in the movie. And so when we all feel like we're at the edge of everything, that's when we're at the kind of like denouement of the movie. We're at the biggest point.
Yeah.
So would be called the scare event, right?
Yes, exactly. And this is something that we have been hearing about for a few years now, right? It's something I think that sadly, because the Mockingbird programming is so deep, how do you wake people up? Right?
Well, again, we're in a situation. Why are we in a movie and not just being told, right? Why don't they just dismantle things and just tell us about it? Because it's the same. I love listening to X22, and he makes such a great metaphor. He was like, imagine telling yourself in 2018 that in 2019 and 2020, this huge pandemic was coming, but it was going to be mostly a psychological operation to introduce a certain type of bioweapon to get people to scare people. The intention was to lock you down for over 10 years while they dragged it out and then gave you this thing and then, moved forward with this very dark agenda. You wouldn't believe that person at all. You would be like, what are you smoking? And like, maybe you should get help, because that's ridiculous. You watch too many movies, right? That we would not accept it if it was just told to us. The only way we can really wrap our heads around it and understand it is to go through it, which is the only, like, that's how you learn, right? You learn about why certain moves are bad moves or why we shouldn't allow certain things by experiencing it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's where we're at.
Yeah. And we can't grow and evolve as a species either if we're not put right, like through, and we can each individually attest to this, through some of our biggest struggles. We've had some of our biggest breakthroughs and evolutionary experiences. And it's no different for the species of humanity as a whole
Right.
on this planet. Now,
Right.
we don't want it to be negative or fearful or anything. And at the same time, like you just said, if you just told people, they would think you were nuts, because you try to tell certain people about certain things and they think you're nuts.
Well, they need to see it from themselves, right?
And
They need to because a lot of people understand more through experience, and that's how we are on an individual level. That's why on this plane, the plane that we're on, this 3D experience offers you catalyst in equal measure. So you get 50% positive, 50% negative.
Mm-hmm.
And most growth, most change happens through negative catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
That's when people, so imagine being really comfortable right now and being told, you know, there were some really negative forces out there who had pretty wicked plans against humanity. They were going to come after you. They were going to come after your kids, your neighbors, right? And they were going to do all these things, but we cleaned it up. Number one, you'd be like, okay, whatever. Like my life, it's no sweat off my back. My life hasn't changed. So I don't need to change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whereas when you're going through this type of experience, you really are not only looking at how do you want the world to change, but what do you need to do to be a catalyst for that change?
Exactly.
You know, when you look at your life, you look at what you value, it helps you reassess, it helps you get really clear on what's truly important to you and what's not, right?
Yeah.
The battles you want to fight and the ones that aren't really, don't mean anything.
Yeah, totally. And this is, you know, I don't think it will actually come into form. I think it is really a scare event. It's not going to actually occur in the sense of like,
well, I think it's like a controlled, like a controlled forest fire.
Yes.
Like it's, you know, if there is a fire, you will see the forest burn, but it's not a wildfire that is just spreading. It's literally controlled demolition is the word my team says.
Yeah, totally. I agree. So what do we suspect this scare event could be? Any thoughts?
Well, I think we are already being broadcast. It's being told to us, right? Mr. T is telling us all the time. It's World War III is what they're going to push and make it look like. And you can see, World War III. It's all over the world. We're actually in the war right now. We're in an information war. And that's really where most of this real war is taking place. It's a war for your mind.
Yeah.
Whoever can control the population's mind is winning the war.
Yeah. For
real. The physical war elements are what people are worried about and afraid of. And those are the controlled demolition. They are allowing certain things to happen, but it's not as it appears, right? They're going to allow certain things to happen and tell you it's this horrible, scary, chaotic event, when really it's more of like a planned revolution. It's a planned takeover. It's a planned breakdown type situation, but it serves multiple purposes, because by letting you assume what you're looking at, that is the psychological program being either broken down or like it's actually helping reprogram you to see the bigger picture.
Yes.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Because there are two psychological operations going on. There is the negative, which is the programming one we talk about, where it's like, here is the propaganda, here is the approved talking points, here's the people we want you to root for or hate. That's, the negative psychological operation. The positive psychological operation is also happening. And this is where you got to think about it like sleepwalkers. You can't just force someone awake. You can't do that because they will hurt themselves or possibly hurt you.
Yeah.
And so in that kind of scenario, it's this controlled, I'm going to tell you that this person is really not good for our country. They're really bad, but you're not seeing that. So I'm just going to let this play out a little
Yeah.
bit. Here's a nightmare for you to look at. And you're like, oh my God. I'm like, whoa, okay. This isn't the person I thought he was. Like Trudeau is a great example.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, man, was he hyped up. I remember, I'm in the United States, Amber's in Canada. It's different for her. But over here, here was this clean cut, nice looking guy, had a family. Like it was, oh, Trudeau, like that is how
Yeah.
people were responding to him.
Yeah.
Like, what a classy guy.
Yeah, except for, and totally in the States, because here we had his father, well, his fake father in the 80s, and he ruined the country too. So it was like a lot of people that went through that were like, oh gosh,
Right.
who would be
Right.
stupid enough to vote the junior in? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was,
yeah, totally.
over
A lot
here,
of
it was
people didn't
hyped
know.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was being, so, he's being sold as someone who he clearly isn't. And now
Yeah.
what they're doing is, instead of telling you this is a bad, just let him do it. Let's show you what
Yeah.
this guy's got planned. And one of the example, and there's so many examples, I know, Amber, you could just list them off, but one that kind of stuck with me was he was such a dick to people during the pandemic. He said some of the worst things I've heard anyone say about unvaccinated people.
Yeah, you're a bigot and a racist.
Just terrible, almost bordering on like they should die or they should be, caged up, something like that. It was really gross. I was like, that is, and just, he said it so openly and bluntly and like matter of factly, like this is okay to talk about human lives like that. And then, after the pandemic was officially canceled by everyone, he turned around and said he never said those things.
Totally.
I know. Oh, I never said that.
Yeah.
It's like, we have you on video.
Yeah.
Saying it.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And that's why he can't go anywhere without a mob of hundreds of people yelling and throwing rocks at him now, because people are activated now.
Oh, sure. But I mean, that's how it works. It's like,
that's how it works.
In the period of time where he was saying those things, it is very probable that, I mean, didn't most Canadians get vaccinated too? It was a pretty high number, or was it 50%?
I don't know if I
Oh,
believe it.
So from the numbers that we have heard, let's say it's at least 50%. Probably they're telling you more. People were so scared and freaked out and didn't know what was going on. He could say these things and it wasn't like being clocked, or even worse is, because they were in fear, because they were so scared and so conditioned by the messaging, they may have been agreeing with him. I mean, so these are the people who now, having gone through all of that, hopefully calm down, hopefully seeing more or seeing the hypocrisy, are starting to like blink, blink, blink and kind of go, wait a minute, okay, you did say those things, whether you feel good about it or not. Now you're lying, now you're gaslighting and telling us that didn't happen. So you can see, it's like, by allowing people to go through the whole process, it causes people to eventually, what they'll do is, the gaps or the guffaws that happen gets bigger and bigger and bigger, that you literally have to actively gaslight yourself to continue to believe the propaganda that they're sharing with you.
100%. Yeah. It's, and what I'm loving about Canada right now is seeing all the different immigrants and ethnicities unifying, because they're pissed too, because they're coming after the kids, they're pushing all the agendas with them too. And it's just so great to see like original citizens and these lovely immigrants that thought they were going to come here and like it was going to be so much better than where they were. Like, not that I want anyone to get a taste of it, but like because that's what's waking them up now and pushing them to their precipice, and it's further unifying everyone to be on the same page, right? Which is so powerful, because that's how we change this.
Right. I mean, we have to get behind stuff. That's why the scare event is necessary too, because we have to have an event that's big enough to get people over the things they're getting caught up in now. They're getting caught up in race. They're getting caught up in religion. They're getting caught up in war stances. They're getting caught up in, some people are still caught in the whole COVID is really dangerous, and everyone needs to do the same protocols. Some people are still caught up in that. So in order to get people to get over that, we need something much bigger. I think it was even Ronald Reagan who had said this in the 80s. He had talked, and I don't know the direct quote, but the sentiment was, we would unify so fast if there was a threat bigger than us challenging the planet. These lines, these fake lines we've drawn everywhere would immediately disappear because we'd have a threat bigger than that pettiness that keeps getting pushed. And that pettiness is pushed on purpose. It is the propaganda. It is by design.
Yeah.
And it's meant to keep us separated and focused. Like men, women and men should hate each other. Races should hate each other. Age groups should hate each other. Orientations should hate each other, right? That's all designed to keep us distracted. And because as long as we're distracted, we're not unified.
Exactly.
So a scare event, its intent is to unify. None of that's going to matter if you're about to get hit with a nuke, right? If you're about to lose a chunk of your country, you're not going to care who's helping you, get to safety.
Yeah.
If they're politically aligned to you or not, all you care about is, I just want you to be safe.
Yeah. Or maybe they have extra food and you didn't prepare, and now they're out of the kindness of their heart offering you food to survive, or vice versa.
Right.
Right.
So that's part of the reason it's going to happen, is because we need something. One of the topics is children too. Like when you start messing with children, that's already happening and people are watching it. It wakes people up because that's an innocent, class that needs protection from others.
Yes.
So children are one thing, but when you full on threaten, World War III, that's going to get people to pay attention and wake up really fast, because I think that we could probably agree that most people, a majority of the world, do not want that. No. They do not want that experience.
No. What does most of humanity want? Peace, unity, abundance, happiness, health, to live their life and grow their families and have a nice community. And you know what I mean? Like it's honestly the simplest things I want. I want peace, unity, community, decent food, right? And like nature, like as we've gone through this whole time, I'm like, that's what's most important. That's the most
people want to feel safe.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to thrive. They don't want to be in survival constantly. And war is definitely a situation where no one's thriving in those situations.
No.
So when we're looking at what's the scare event, most likely we know it's a World War III scenario. So what does World War III look like in our world? And the word's nuclear, right? That's kind of what it looks like. That's why we don't want it to actually come about, because there's nobody wins.
Nobody wins. And of course, as we've been talking about, this is a scare event. This, again, like you said, it's a controlled burn. To me, number one, in my opinion, I think any nuclear weapons have been dismantled by the good guys. I don't actually think that there's any probably left, and or if there are, the technology is available, and I believe they have access to it to dismantle these systems. I mean, we've seen video footage of extraterrestrial craft lasering and deactivating missiles, right? So we know we're well protected.
Well, there's a top secret, like confidential materials that have been released, where it's been shown that at many nuclear sites, that the weapons were disabled. They couldn't even be launched, even when they tried. And
Dr.
this has
Greer
been
talked about that.
Yeah, exactly. So again, go back to that episode. You can hear his interview that he did with the Associated Press, and on his channel, he has a YouTube channel as well. He will share more information about that with you, but it's very real that we are protected to a certain degree. So I know like people are like, well, then why would we have to go through a scare event and all? Won't the positive ETs just come in and save us? Won't they just stop it? And the way I understand it is they're not to interfere.
No.
It's kind of like the Star Trek directive, the Prime Directive is You go there to learn and to explore, but you do not interfere with the society that's there. You let them grow at the level that they're growing at. You don't interfere with their growth because it could devastate that civilization. And so these ETs don't do that. But if 75% or more of humanity is threatened, they will take action and do things like disable nukes. So I don't believe, and we can ask when we get to the card part, if it will be a real weapon or not. I do believe it could be a very much a 9/11 situation where we're shown something.
Yeah.
We're told it's one thing, but it's
Totally.
really another.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, and they have the Blue Beam, Project Blue Beam, right? They have all these things to make it look so real.
Oh yeah.
Look at the way movies have been made for years. They have the technology to do this. It's no surprise. But what we need to remember is to use our discernment and our intuition, and to remember that it's all a stage, and it is to take people to the precipice. And it's actually, to me, like everything that happens from now until this scare event isn't for you and I, Therese. It is for those who are asleep, refusing to look at things, are deep in the mockingbird programming. Like, it's for those people.
Oh, for sure. We would be out of this already if a majority of people were already on the other side of it.
Yeah.
But I even want to state, I use 9/11 as an example. Just look at the pandemic. That was sold to us as a deadly, virulent disease, rapidly spreading and just taking everyone out. Number one, we never saw dead homeless people in the street. Number two, there was no protocols out there for dealing with toxic waste. And I'm talking about masks. I'm talking like masks were everywhere. If people were carrying this around, why was there no protocol for discarding hazardous waste?
Exactly.
We would have, and these things would not have been hidden from the view. They would have been played on the loop to really scare the crap out of you.
Yeah.
So look at how much hysteria they were able to whip up over something that was similar, if not the flu, or at least very similar.
Exactly. So they know, right?
They don't. So what I'm saying is they don't have to actually produce it for you to convince you that it's happening. They could, all these sirens could go off. You could get alerts telling you to stay indoors. Something horrible is going to happen. Like shut down your bank account, shut down grocery store. They could create so much scare and chaos and show you pictures of incoming missiles. They could show, literally have something exploding, but not what you think it is. You know what I mean? It could be done in a way where we would feel like it's very real, and the hype and the fear around it would be enough to convince people it's happening.
Exactly. And that's the thing, though, through all this technology and CGI and imaging, they can make everything look so real. So it is hard to tell what is real and what is not, unless you see someone's mask line, or you see like the break in the green screen behind come through. So it is, I would say, I don't know, but I feel like 70 to 80% of what we're seeing visually is actually not even real, because this technology is there.
Well, and this is one of those things where it kind of comes down to a gut feeling, because it's hard to prove that. It's, as much as I agree with you, it's also hard to prove. And where you and I might look at that and be like, that's not Hillary Clinton. Look at that line. That's not Kamala. No. Look at that, those gills popping out of the side of her neck. And I don't mean to say she's a fish person. I mean like the rubber, the latex, right? So you and I look at that, we're like, obviously it's not. You can show that to someone who's not on the same page, and they'll be like, you're reading way into this. Like, that's just fat and wrinkles. And you know what? It's like, you can't convince somebody with this. You have to let them wake up on their own.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. So should we ask
let's do
some questions? We got some juicy ones today. So I think the first question that I wrote down is it going to be is this scare event, this fake nuke scare, going to be a worldwide attack, or that's the question.
Okay, so I'm going to start with my pendulum on that, because that's a yes or no question. All right, so from the highest truth, is this fake nuke scare going to be a worldwide nuclear event? Yes or no? I'm getting the weirdest answer. It's like a cross between a yes and a like, but not like I'm not asking the right question. So let me pause and ask a more specific one. All right, thank you, Clear. All right, from the highest truth, will this nuke scare event that's coming directly affect the United States? Yes or no?
That's got to be a yes.
It's not a big one though. So there's like the United States is involved for sure, but I'm not getting that huge swing. So let's see if there's another region we can look at. Let's see. Okay, Clear. From the highest truth, will this fake nuke scare that's coming up directly affect Europe? Yes or no? All right, thank you. That one's a little bit bigger. So I get that. Number one, I get, of course it is, because as soon as you start launching that stuff, or saying you're going to launch that stuff, or showing stuff getting launched, everyone's eyes are on it, because that's not supposed to happen. There's treaties in place where it's like, we're not going to use that stuff.
Right.
So Europe's a little stronger. Let's check Canada real quick. From the highest truth, is this upcoming fake nuke scare directly affecting Canada? Yes or no? I get a no on that one. So it doesn't look like you guys are in the direct path.
I got that feeling, but I feel like it'll be, because every
You'll
country,
be watching.
and because every country, because from what I've heard, we're going to be going into a martial law, right? Circumstance.
Well,
everyone
I think
has to be at home for broadcasts, right?
You're part of the crown, right? Your country's part of the crown. So I don't think you're directly affected, but you're just by association, whatever they're going to do is going to trickle over to you guys.
Totally. Makes sense.
Let's just one more real quick and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, Clear. From the highest truth, does this upcoming fake nuke scare directly affect the Middle East? Yes or no? Yes. All right. So I know there's more countries out there to look at, but just for the sake of time, it's big. I mean,
for sure.
But it seems like there's Europe and there's some United States going on, but makes me wonder if the East Coast might be, because that's closer to the European countries. If we're looking at the Atlantic, let me just, again, sorry, real quick here, right? From the highest truth, will this upcoming fake nuke scare be directly connected to the Atlantic Ocean? Yes or no? Oh, that's getting big yes on that one. Yeah. Right, thank you.
It makes sense, because that's where a lot of the tension is right now. It's like Europe, Russia, Ukraine,
honestly, I'm on the West Coast, so I was kind of worried it was going to be Pacific. I don't know, but I didn't expect Atlantic. Atlantic definitely. If I'm doing this strategically and I'm thinking, okay, I'm making a movie and I want the biggest impact, the Atlantic Ocean would definitely be more impactful than the Pacific.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
All right.
So next question. Will an actual missile, nuke, whatever, hit land, or will it be intercepted?
Okay. So really quick. From the highest truth, will an actual nuclear missile be launched for this scare event? Yes or no? Okay, so something will actually be launched, it looks like. Something.
Is it blue beam?
Okay, let's check. Right, from the highest truth, will this nuclear weapon that gets launched for the scare event actually be the blue beam holographic technology? Yes or no? Clear. Okay. Little bit, possibly something else. I get the feeling, and I want to ask the cards really quick. Like it's physical, so there's something that happens, like a boom, a bang, something.
Right.
But it's and we're told it's nuclear, but I don't think it's actually it. It's a different kind of missile, maybe like, and I don't know how they look, but it looks like it, but it's actually not carrying that kind of payload in it.
For sure. I'm sure they can make them look fake and just like have it be empty and like fly around, right?
There's something. Yeah, there's a physical manifestation that happens. So there's something physical. And again, if we go back to the 9/11 example or the pandemic example, there was something there. Okay, there really was COVID. There is something.
For sure.
There really was an explosion, but it was little, bombs going off. It wasn't an explosion from a plane hitting it. It was something else. So there is something physical to this. It's not, but I'm getting the feeling again, like what I'm hearing from my team is like, it's looks a certain way, but it lacks the substance. It doesn't
just
have
like all the other stuff.
The material, but it's going to scare, it'll be scary. It could hit the ocean, maybe it could hit land somewhere, and it would have an impact. And we might be told all the things you get told when there's a nuclear explosion, like all this radiation. I mean, think about the movie Oppenheimer. Isn't it interesting that they launched that movie, over the summer?
Right.
Oppenheimer was about the atomic bomb, right? Building that bomb. Right. So it's getting people to understand what atomic bombs look like and how they act. And I think that was part of it, was understanding the kind of damage it can do.
For sure.
So yeah, there is a physical component to this, which I don't love that information, but I also get, again, it's not as threatening or deadly as it should be. It's really not.
No, I don't get that either at all. So just like all the other things, it's made to look and feel a lot more scary and real than it actually is.
Yeah.
So next question, because we already kind of asked, will it be a real weapon or not? So we got the answer to that. So this is specific to Canada, but will Trudeau make it through this fake scare event? Was he going to get kicked out beforehand, or is he going to take us the whole way through?
All right, from the highest truth, will Trudeau get kicked out of Canadian office before the nuclear scare event happens? Yes or no? Yeah, there's a small probability. It's not a big one. There's a small probability, meaning it's something to do with, they're showing me it's something to do with the people. You guys have to, there's something that either gets exposed or you have to push. There's a pushing that has to happen. And if not enough people push, it's like he kind of sticks or stays put. But there isn't a somewhat of a probability that he might get flipped over before this. It really just depends on how there's a speed element with him. It's scheduled to happen, but the speed at which it happens is kind of dependent on people. Not on him.
For sure. Totally makes sense. That's kind of what I figured. And then we had the question, and we can ask for USA and Canada, but will they actually get this civil war thing to start in the States? I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, let's ask that
first, because there's been chatter of that.
So we haven't really talked about it in this episode, but one of the planned events over here is to create a kind of civil war event using something like BLM or Antifa or something, and make it seem like it's political or politically motivated, possibly racial. And that's one of their tactics to sort of like, again, F up our election cycle that's coming up here. And they did that in 2020, right? We had all those riots right before we were having a big election. So I wanted to ask about that, see if that's actually going to go through. Okay, so from the highest truth, will the fake civil war event in the United States actually happen? Yes or no? Okay, they're going to try it. they're going to try and start something. It doesn't go anywhere. It's like,
Yeah.
like
Epic
you can
fail.
see them dressed up. You can see them doing their, hey, look at all these people. And it just, nobody buys it.
No.
So
People
it's
know
just,
the playbook.
people know the playbook and it's too weak. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not like, because what they want to do is they want to push it and blame Trump supporters and say they're going wild. They're upset about Trump stuff and they're going wild, and it doesn't work because all this time they've been doing stuff to Trump. And if their supporters would get riled up and upset and go to the streets, they'd already be in the streets and you'd see it.
It'd be
Nobody's
a
doing
long
it.
time ago. Exactly.
No one's doing it. Everyone's staying pretty level-headed. So that's not happening. So when they do try to hype it up or say it's happening, people are like, the math isn't mathing. It's not, I don't believe this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just like,
Totally.
It's kind of like the Jussie Smollett case. Remember that one where they
Right.
really tried to hype up that something was happening? It turns out it was a false thing all along.
Right. Can we ask the same question for Canada?
Yeah. Okay. So did you guys is there plans for a civil war action?
Yeah. And I think part of it is, and or will we see the biggest riots in the world by the end of 2023 here?
All right. So from the highest truth, will Canada have huge riots by or before the end of 2023? Yes or no? There is some kind of rioting going on, but again, I actually get that it's not going to be this one. I don't get that feeling of like, be careful, crazy people are coming. I kind of feel like the trucker thing or something kind of like that.
2.0.
It's like, I kind of get like, they're showing me images of what are they called? The yellow vest, the green vest in France, that kind of thing. Feels like that.
Okay. Well,
Not literally that, but it feels like that. It's people driven, not psyop driven.
Yeah, it's like people, so we must be continued.
And this might be connected to Trudeau leaving, so that because they said he's scheduled to go. You're going to be rid of him, but there's a timing thing about it, and it's like how long it takes for the people to do this. So I do think there's a possibility of like a people's revolution. But I don't see it as a war. They're showing me, I see it as a protest. It feels like the trucker thing, though they will come at you guys again and do their little attacks, but again, people have been through it before, and I think they have new strategies now.
And people won, like all the people that got charged in court or fake charged, like they all won, like the restaurants, the pastors, like, albeit I don't know really what's going on with that lady that led the convoy with that guy. I think I don't know what's going on there, but no, it's because it's all illegal what they're doing, right? So
right. So I get a feeling it's like that, but again, the feeling and the pictures they're showing me is I see a lot of people and I see them moving forward as a unit. I don't see this. I don't see coming at.
Right.
There's like on the fringe, maybe some police stuff going on, but mostly it's like last time, the people are moving forward. The outer government makes attacks, but this time people have that, they've already got it in their head, like how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
How they would combat anything like a bank account freeze or something like that looks like they've got plans.
Solutions. Yeah, totally. Makes sense. Well, I mean, honestly, when I tap into the whole thing, I don't feel, I'm just like, okay, that just means we're closer to phase 2 and like the next, or maybe that is phase 2. Is the fake scare event the start of phase 2, or does phase 2 start after?
All right. So for those who are like, what's phase 2? We're referencing some information that another channel has given. Her name's Blossom Goodchild. Amber's chatted with her or had her on. You should definitely check her out. But her team often talks about phase 2. So what was the question again?
Is the scare event us going into phase 2, or does phase 2 start after the scare event?
All right. So from the highest truth, Does the scare event start phase 2? Yes or no? Yeah, the scare event starts phase 2.
That's what it feels like. Totally.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into phase 2 already.
And yeah, the phase 2 type stuff is another kind of lockdown, but again, more like martial law, more about protecting you from,
Yes.
possible, there are like mini groups of
Pockets.
roaming minions.
Yeah, it's the minions.
It's the minions, and the minions. So the way that we understand this is there's been a lot of cleanup top down. They started at the
Yeah.
top and took out the heads first.
Yeah.
This monster has already been beheaded, and slowly they're going down and cutting off all the limbs. So
Yeah.
when we get down to the minions, we're looking at the feet and the toes is really what's left. But just because they're not the big guns, these are also people who a lot of times they have a criminal background, or
Yeah.
they have severe medical issues like mental illnesses.
Yeah.
And they use these type of people who are willing to be unhinged and do unhinged things. So it's not just because the bigger dogs are taken out, there's a reason that they would put us in a kind of martial law so they could clean up these guys,
Yeah.
because these guys are the ones who will just go after anybody.
Exactly.
And you don't want to mix with that.
Yeah. Plus, there may be some civil unrest as truths and disclosures occur, right? And I don't know if they're going to do cleanup and then truth after, or if that's going to all happen at the same time. But like, you can only keep people in martial law for so long, like before the world.
No, yeah, as I understand it, you get about 15 days, which was ironically the first lockdown, right? It was 15 days before civilization starts to have a collapse. So you can't keep people locked in that long.
No.
And yeah, maybe there are some people who might go vigilante wanting to take stuff into their own hands, but I would not recommend that. I would stay out of it as much as possible, unless you're actual military and it's your job to do it. I wouldn't put myself in harm's way like that.
No, but I think that people will be cooperative. Some might not, but
I mean, it really depends on, like, let's just do a quick check. I know we had to run because it's getting late, but one last question. And that is, I want to see if we can find out how many people in total on the planet are awake, because there's a certain number that we get to,
right,
where things are going, it actually goes pretty well, because enough people are like aware and
they're like,
now.
let's go, we know what's going on.
It's from the highest truth. At this current time, are 85% of the people on planet Earth awake and aware of what's going on? Yes or no? Yes. 85%. That's a good number. There might be more. It might be more than that, but that's the number I'm going to stop with today, because that's a pretty decent number.
That's good.
Which means like we're really not far away. I mean, 5 to 10 more percent and we are golden. So
golden. And I guess we just have to wait and see exactly when this event happens, but I feel it'll be sometime in the next year or less.
Oh, definitely 2024.
Yeah,
definitely, because it can't go past that, because we're starting a breakdown. If we let this psyop go on much longer, you're losing people in droves. So I think next year is the pinnacle, and we can talk about that next time when we do the podcast.
I agree. Let's talk about the pinnacle and all that next time. That sounds really exciting. And then maybe we could also talk about and tap into what else does phase 2, 3, 4, 5 look like? What is that?
I mean, I haven't really looked deeply into that, because my team likes to talk about what you can do on a personal level.
Totally.
So if you want to follow me, go to blythestarlight.com, or you can go to YouTube. And on YouTube, I do karma cards weekly. And that's really where my team gets into, here's what you can do right now to help speed up this awakening ascension process. And I like to focus on that, because then it's empowering to you and you feel like you're helping move things forward without putting yourself in harm's way. So if you want to check
Yeah.
that out, visit Blythe Starlight on YouTube, and or connect with me at blythestarlight.com. And for
Yes.
Amber, how can we get in touch with you?
If you need some support getting grounded through this time, you need support getting that cortisol balance, those hormones, or overcoming emotional eating, you can check out all the details below. Book a consultation, listen to the podcast, or just connect for some free resources. You don't have to go through this alone. We're totally here.
Absolutely. And I would,
We're here.
no matter how, if this is the first time hearing this information, it might feel a little jarring, but know that many of us who have been looking at this for a long time, we feel like it's moving in a very positive direction,
Yes.
despite what you're seeing right
Yes.
now. So looks can be deceiving.
Yes.
Just know that we've won. The light has won, but this play has to wrap up. You've got to
Yes.
understand how this resolves and what it looks like to take your world back.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
Well said. Well, thank you all for joining us. If you love this, leave a comment below if there's any topic you'd like to see us dive deeper into and ask our teams about. And it's been a pleasure as always. So sending so much love, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.
Bye.